Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke and I am back again after being off yesterday, and wow, being off one day has really, I have this flood of emails in my inbox, and good morning, Alex. I was just saying, I woke up this morning to even yesterday all day while I was in the city, it was like floods and floods of email about work and questions and, can you help me with this and can we do that? And it's all stuff it's all good. It's all good. I'm not saying any of it's bad or anything, but it was just like it all kind of came in at the same time on the one day that I'm not doing it. I wasn't doing anything yesterday, and it's interesting. I did go to Amma's program yesterday, and that's going to be the main focus of today because it was super interesting. And it's super interesting in the context of what I talk about here as well. So that's the reason I'm kind of focusing on it. And even being at the program, I found that people had questions about things that I thought, okay, those are actually good things to kind of talk about a little bit, especially with regard to spiritual practice and things like that, like trying to understand certain aspects of it. Because there were people there who clearly didn't. Good morning, Sam. I'm back. I have survived my trip to New York. I mean, it's not like New York City's that far away, and it's that hard to get there. The trip actually to Jacob Javits Center is actually really straightforward. You just literally, I usually drive to Convent, park my car, and there's not that many people. I used to go to the train stations and they were absolutely jam-packed. You couldn't find parking. But I was finding it even in the middle of the day, there was the lots mostly empty. They're not, the permit spaces, nobody's using them. So, it's very, very interesting. But I went to the city, and literally it's just a walk up from 33rd Street to Hudson Yards, which is about, it's almost a mile walk, but it's not horrible. You just literally go down 33rd Street and just keep going until you hit 11th Avenue. And so I got to the program, and they said it was nobody was lining up till 9, but people were lined up at 8. It's kind of what I kind of thought. And then it was different this year. They wanted people to register via QR code. To put, name and all that stuff. And they wanted, of course they want to know if you want to be on a mailing list. I've been on the mailing list for 20 years. I don't need to, you don't need to add me to a mailing list. So the long and the short of me going to see the guru yesterday, I didn't actually get to see her until almost 4:00 in the afternoon. And I actually did not feel well yesterday. And I'm realizing it's funny. We call this whole thing morning coffee. It's because I didn't have my morning coffee. I had to leave so early, and I didn't, I just had some other stuff, but I didn't actually end up having any coffee. Now in the middle of the day after, while they were doing bhajans, I actually went and I got some chai. I didn't really eat, I don't eat Indian food. So I had gotten, just like a snack or something, and I had gotten some chai in the middle of the day. But I don't really know how much caffeine is in chai. But I had the worst headache all day. It was kind of that feeling, and I'm realizing, you know what that is? That's a caffeine headache. That's because you weren't getting your caffeine. So there's my little drug addiction in a cup here, right? But I am doing better. Now I was doing a Pilates workout the other day, and a new thigh workout, and my thighs are still feeling it today. So I'm like, okay. Obviously I needed to up my game there, but it was just really weird. My body was in a lot of pain yesterday, and then when I was driving, after I got back from the program, I was just starving, so I stopped and I got something to eat before I went home. Stopped in Madison, and then when I was driving home, it was my right foot cramped up, almost that's my driving foot, it was it just totally cramped up, and unfortunately it was towards the end of my drive, and I'm like, geez, but then when I got out of the car, I expected, my foot was fine as soon as I got out of the car. So I'm like, I don't even know what that was about. I'm sure there's something in the... I always feel like the body pains, especially when they're just weird and they kind of come out of the blue like that, I almost feel like there's a message in them, and there's a meaning, because there's emotional body mapping. We talk a lot about that with Rahani, and it's not something original to that. I think probably Louise Hay is the one who put out the emotional body mapping kind of thing. So where you carry your pain, your chronic pain, may also be where you're carrying certain things. Like they say the lungs is where you carry grief, and the liver is where you carry anger. And if you feel things on your shoulders or in your arms it's almost like when you feel like you're not doing enough. There's a different thing. It is available. You can Google it. I think if they call it emotional body map or emotional body chart, you can find it. Google images, they'll give you a picture showing everything. And some of the pictures are better than others, but if you find a very detailed one, I found that it's helpful in trying to determine dealing with certain chronic issues or certain phantom pains that show up. That it may provide at least some explanation of that. But I did want to talk about the program today because it was, okay, so first of all, weird synchronicities happening. When you come into the program, and I don't know if any of you have ever been to a program like this, when Amma comes, and I've been going to see her since 2002. I didn't go for a number of years. I probably didn't go for 7 or 8 years. But then again, she also didn't come to the U.S. during COVID. In fact, nobody thought she was coming to the U.S. ever again. Okay, and the fact that she came was like, everyone went, whoa, something's up. And apparently there is something up. So, and it is connected very much with the kind of work that I do, especially over on the Cattonia side. So, she was, okay, so the woman I was sitting next to in the program, because you get your they give you your tokens. They ask you, first of all, have you seen Amma before, and have you seen her this summer? Because the people who've seen her, there's people who follow her around, like, Amma groupies, and they follow her around. They tell those people, you have to wait till everybody else is gone before we're going to give you a token, and then maybe you can get one at the end. Because they don't want, they want people to, I mean, I don't think they're necessarily discouraging it, but they want other people to get their Darshan first. So, and Darshan's literally a word that just means audience. So it's almost like, so even if you sat in the presence of a guru and they just stood there and blessed you, that would also be called a Darshan. Amma's Darshan consists of her actually physically embracing you. Okay, because that's what they call her, the hugging saint. That's what she does. And yes, I did get my hug at the end, like at around 4 o'clock. And then they were like, oh, would you like to sit on the stage next to her? And I was like, no, I just want to go home. And they were like, oh, okay. But also because I had been there, and I used to belong to a satsang group in New Jersey, and there was a whole lot of drama probably around about 10 years ago. And I could see that some of those people were there, but I hadn't spoken to them in years, and I don't even know if they, I feel like the one probably would recognize me. But I just kind of was like, you know what, I'm just going to leave those people, no, they're not bad people, but I'm just leaving them to their thing. I'm not even gonna, if they don't recognize me, I'm not going to reintroduce myself. I'm just kind of like, we'll just leave that over there. And again, it's just, I just kind of felt like that was something I did not want to like start up again or reconnect with. So, yeah, there was, anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But good morning, Sudha. I'm just talking about the Amma program, actually. I don't know if you were going to, I know you were, I don't know if you were planning on going to that or not, but, or, because I went yesterday, and I was there all day. And, so, okay, so first of all, I ended up sitting next to this woman. I wasn't talking, she was talking to somebody else, and I had my headache, and I was trying to, like, read my book. Awesome, yeah. It was actually, like I said, I was headachy all day because I didn't have my caffeine. But I was trying to read a little bit, like, while I was waiting for Amma to come into the hall, because you've got to get there, like, 2 or 3 hours before she even gets there for Pada Puja. And the woman next to me just started talking to me out of the blue. And she seemed nice enough, but then I found out, she said, oh, well, where do you live? And when I told her, she said, well, you're going to love this, I live in Milford. Now, those of you who know that I do my in-person work in Milford. And I'm like, Milford? On the Delaware? She's like, yeah, north of Frenchtown. I'm like, and she lives down the street from Karena's restaurant. She literally lives right down the street. She's like, oh my God. She's like, do you want me to drive you home? But I knew she was going to be there till like midnight. I said, oh, I really appreciate that. I said, but I have my car, and I was supposed to actually meet somebody afterwards, which didn't end up happening because I was there for so long. Wild synchronicity. So we exchanged numbers. And she knew who Karena was, and I don't know, we were just kind of talking about the shop and everything. But, so I was just like, that was so strange. But she's like, oh my God, I want to connect. Nobody out there understands who Amma is. And so I was like, in Milford, I can believe that. As she said, it's kind of a strange area, and I would concur with that. There's just, the vibe in it it's a real mixed vibe, let's put it that way. So I met her, but I talked to her for a little while, then I had gotten up to go, it's okay. So normally the way that these programs go is they would have a morning program and an evening program. Okay. And in the morning program, it was like Amma will come in. They always do Pada Puja, and I'll explain what that is in a minute if you don't know what that is. And then she'll get up there. She will do a meditation with everybody. The Swami will do meditation. Usually it's Swami Amrita Swarupananda, or they call him Big Swamiji, because he's a big guy with a very big voice, really impressive singing voice. And he will usually lead the meditation because he has a great voice. He has a great voice for that. But this time what happened is, and in the evening program, they will do what they call a satsang, which is where the guru will give a talk, or one of the swamis will give a talk. Now, usually it's both. Usually one of the swaminis, or probably one of the up-and-comings, will give a talk about something with their experience with Amma, and they will do that first. And that did happen this time as well. And I don't know this swamini. She seems to be a newer one. But because I just know who a lot of the older ones are. But she seemed to be one of the newer ones. And so she was giving a talk about, what she had learned from, Amma and stuff like that. And good morning, Joanne. So she gives the talk first. And then normally what happens is in the evenings, Amma will give her satsang, she will give her talk, and Swamiji will translate it for her. After she says it, this time they actually had like the jumbotrons, they had like the screens, and they had to translate it into, it was supposed to be English, French, and Spanish. But I only saw English and French. I guess there was Spanish over on the other side. I stand corrected. There was. So basically it was translating it. Her speech was pre-prepared, and they put the translation up so that people could read it. And that actually saves a lot of time too, because then Swamiji doesn't have to stop, and then he doesn't have to say everything she just said, and then she talks again. So that was interesting, and her speech was fascinating. Okay, and then they will do bhajans, which are the singing. Okay, the spiritual songs. And then usually they would do Darshan after that. This time they did all of that in the morning program and did not start Darshan until almost 2:00. So I didn't see Amma until, and the line moves pretty fast. I didn't see Amma until about 4. It was a little after 4. And, okay, so the woman who was sitting next to me when we were from Milford, we were talking, and she had said to me, she says, Amma was not supposed to come. Apparently this program was not supposed to happen. She made a sudden decision. She said, I'm going on tour in the U.S. I'm going there now. And apparently she was really like this way about something. And I was like, yeah, I kind of felt that. And it's because of the state of things. Let's just be real. The state of things in the United States. The absolute tribalism, the absolute split, this push towards authoritarianism, this very hateful kind of rhetoric that goes on in this country. And that's just what it is. Regardless of anybody's political point of view, that's what's going. That's what it is. And she is like, I have had it. Basically, she said, I've had enough of this. So it's like Mother Kali's like, I'm coming back to the United States, because that's how I see her. I see her as Mother Kali. I said, she's coming in and she's going to be like, okay, we're going to come in here and I'm going to straighten you out. And what this woman told me was, she said on July the 4th, and I didn't realize this because I don't closely follow all the ashram news. She apparently started some kind of a program about women and women's empowerment, and she started it on the 4th of July, which I thought was really interesting. But she made that on-the-spot decision. We're going. And she said, yeah, everybody at the ashram was trying to talk her out of it. No, Amma, we shouldn't go to North America. We shouldn't do this and that. She's like, I'm going, and you're arranging it. So all the satsangs apparently scrambled. Satsangs are also the name of the groups, the local groups that will get together and sing and do puja and arati and stuff like that. All the local groups got together to put this program together, kind of at the last minute. So, and this one was very different from the ones I'd been to, because I felt like it was a lot more low key. There had been a lot of drama. There's a lot of people who feel like they need to be right close to the guru, and there was getting to be almost this competitiveness and this nastiness and pettiness about it, and I didn't sense any of that this time. So there's always still some intense emotion around, but everything just seemed, for the most part, everybody just seemed really low key. There was only one person I ran into who was a little bit testy, but it wasn't that big of a deal. It was like, okay, whatever. But for the most part, everything was just very chill, which I very much appreciated, because that's one of the reasons I stopped going. I was like, okay, you know, there's just too much around this. But okay, so first of all, I think the first thing I want to talk about too is the guru herself. There was a girl sitting behind me. Later on, I was kind of sitting towards the back because I just wanted some space from people while I was suffering with my caffeine headache. And I heard a girl behind me. She stopped a guy who was working the program, and I think I've seen him before. I'm not sure where he's from. He sounds like he might be from the Netherlands or something, like just from judging from his accent. But she had asked him, she says, "Do you work here?" She's like, and basically she asked him, she's like, "So this woman up here, like, I've never been to this before. Like, do they like worship her?" And he's trying to explain to her about the guru and about obedience to the guru. And she's like, "Oh, well, I mean, I didn't know she was like some kind of an idol." Like the way she was saying it. And I'm like, oh God. Now the thing is, nobody asked my opinion, so I didn't butt in. He was trying to explain to her about the guru concept. And I don't know how well he got through to her. But that I think is an important thing to understand, because in the West, we very much value independence. And we say, you know, the idea that you would obey a guru without question, we say, oh no, that's very authoritarian. Like nobody's gonna have, you know, we talk about sovereignty, right? I have sovereignty. You're not gonna tell me what to do. Like, you know what I mean? We're very much, very masculine driven that way. Now, but the thing is, that's a misunderstanding of the guru concept. Okay, so a guru is there. Okay, now I realize, and again, we're aware of gurus of all types. There are some gurus, and oftentimes we only hear about gurus when they're shady or scandalous, or get involved in practices, because there are people who call themselves guru, and people who call themselves sadguru, which means perfect master, who in no way, shape, or form should be taking on that title. Okay? And that's the thing. You have so many hucksters with that a lot of people have come to not take the term guru very seriously, or they use it in a way to say like, oh, just somebody who's an expert. A guru in the Indian sense is somebody who is liberated, basically. There's somebody who has reached that point where they have gotten beyond what we think of as ego consciousness. Not that they don't have an ego, because they obviously, to be with people and interact, you have to have an ego. Like the idea that you're going to remove your ego, it's like, that's just, it's because that's the way it's often expressed, that the ego gets in the way. So people will say, oh, okay, I want to remove the ego. It's like, no. You need to integrate the ego. You don't want to remove the ego. If you remove the ego, you're going to be in a state of like, you know, no words and no anything. Because if you get into a state of samadhi, like there are no words in that state. I mean, words don't do anything. I mean, there's an understanding, but there's no words. So she is able to kind of act and do karma yoga, as they call it. Karma just as a word for action. So she's able to work in the day-to-day world, but she's also able to completely pull herself out of that state. And the guru, because they're in that state, they don't see they don't perceive that separation. Okay? And so the guru is somebody who is qualified to be able to initiate you into their lineage and to guide you. Okay, they're there to guide you. That's why she refers to herself as a mother. I'm here to guide you. And she's doing this in the form of a Devi. Now, the thing is, in India, what that means is different from what it means in the United States. In the United States, they just kind of think of her as like a saintly Virgin Mary. Maybe Mother Teresa is not a great example anymore, since everybody's found all this bad shit about her. But you know what I mean? Just that kind of idea that she's that kind of a saint. And I said, but there's a problem with using that word, because people, again, it means different things. And a lot of people assume that if you're saintly, that means you're without sin. Like we think about things in terms of sin and atonement, because that's the way we've been raised. We also think about God in terms of one God, right? You know, there's one God. That's not the way Hinduism works. Hinduism has over 300 million gods. Gods are another class of being, basically. But with certain types of qualities, just as Asuras, which are considered to be the quote-unquote demonic beings, are not like the demons we talk about here. They're beings that tend to be more materially focused and tend to be sidetracked. So they might do spiritual work and spiritual austerities, but they'll do it so that they can gain a boon, so that they can be more powerful and crush everybody or something like that. Like they're not using that energy in a way that benefits everybody. So the guru has a connection to you. So when the guru looks at a real guru, when they look at you, they know. Alan Watts was funny. He used to talk about when the guru, he says, whenever the guru looks at you, it's really funny because Amma can be very, very smiley and but sometimes she's just like, kind of looks at you, gives you one of those, there's some meme of that, this girl just kind of looking at somebody like, I was like, that's kind of almost reminds me of the look you get sometimes. And Alan Watts said, yeah, people think that the guru doesn't like you. He's like, no, the guru is looking at you like, come off it, Shiva. Like, in other words, doesn't understand why you can't see what they see. Because they see the God in you, and that's what they do. Now, Pada Puja, which is the first thing that you do, with Pada, it means feet, and that's literally like a puja where you wash the feet, and they, put, different, kumkum or vibhuti on the feet, and then, they always put the garland around, flowers around the neck of the guru, and that's something, by the way, that if you are a visitor to a distinguished visitor to a household in India, that is also something that would be done. That people will welcome an honored guest that way because they welcome you as though you are the deity. Okay, and that's so it's not just the guru; it's just anybody who's an esteemed visitor. That will happen. So it's not just so it's not like an act of it's an act of worship, but it's basically when you say namaste or you say namah shivaya. It's like I'm recognizing Shiva in you. I'm recognizing the God in you. Okay, that's how that works. So it's not that she is somebody who you honor because she has reached a point, and through what they call bhakti. That's one mode of achieving liberation is through bhakti or devotion. Okay, so when you follow the guru, you show bhakti. You're dealing with bhakti, and so and the way that it goes, there's actually it's a very common in Hinduism, very common prayer. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. And the thing is, like, if you heard George Harrison's song, My Sweet Lord, it's actually, they're singing it at the end, not entirely correctly, but they're singing it at the end, the backing vocalist. And what that means is the Guru is Brahma, the Guru is Vishnu, the Guru is Shiva. Devo Maheshwara is Shiva. Guru Sakshat Param Brahma is the expression of absolute Brahman. Therefore, Tasmai, we bow to the Guru. Because the Guru is basically showing you that through their actions, through their countenance, and through what they've achieved. They're almost like a vehicle or an expression of the absolute. It's not that you're not also an expression of that, but they are fully aware of it and fully able to help other people get there. Okay, so that's explanation of the Guru. Now, the Guru's message this time was, I was kind of blown away. Now, she always tailors her message to a Western audience. So she's not going to refer to multiple, she often refers to just the grace of God, more generally, for example. She will talk about karma in terms of credits and debits, which is not something I like because it implies that if you're suffering, it's because you've done bad stuff, and I don't really think that. And I don't really think she thinks that either, but it's just a very, in a culture that believes in sin and atonement, it's an easy way to just say, well, basically, suffering is going to be a natural part of life. Because there's no way, if you exist across a continuum in multiple lifetimes, that you're not going to screw something up at some point, or that at some point you might not be in an incarnation or position. Because again, if you're talking about something that's whole, it's going to be both the good and the bad. It's not going to be just, oh, you're going to always be saintly through all these lives or something. There's going to be some point you do something that might be harmful, or it might be because that's just the nature of the world. Wounding is the nature of the world, right? So everybody has a karma to pay, but unfortunately, sometimes when it's said that way, it almost brings a sense of shame. But I don't think that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to say, well, no, everybody experiences good and bad, and we just deal with the good and the bad. If you're dealing with bad stuff, okay, you work through the bad stuff. It's kind of that kind of a thing. But her message was really interesting. First of all, she had a really strong message about unity, about stop judging others, stop hating people because of their point of view is different from yours. She was really very strong on that. She was also very strong on things I've talked about. Remember, I talk a lot about the mind, and I say the mind, gets in, we are so mind heavy that we don't think, and that's what she said. She did talk about people, she said a cat or a dog cannot be a scientist. She said, you have a gift of human consciousness and you need to use it in the right way. Is kind of basically what she said. She had a bunch of stories. She always has a bunch of stories. But one of them I remember, she was talking about a man going to a shop because he wanted ice cream and he wanted his favorite ice cream sundae. She says, and as he ate his ice cream sundae, he was thinking about how he'd had a headache yesterday and how this felt this way. And oh, and I probably ate here and this. And then he starts thinking about, and then she starts listing all these other things. She goes, at the end, she goes, he realized he had finished his ice cream and had never tasted a single drop of it. She said, because his mind was going all the time about everything else, was not in the moment and not enjoying the thing that was right in front of him. She says, you spend too much, we spend too much time focused on the past. She said, the past is a canceled check. She says, don't keep going back to the past. She said, it's like, oh no, actually the analogy she used, she's like, it's like somebody's dead and you're clinging to the corpse. That's literally what she said. It's like you're hanging on to the corpse. She's like, bury it, move on, or whatever you do, put it on the funeral pyre. However you deal with it, move on. But she says future, she says, yes, you can plan for the future, but she said, people spend too much time, she gave the example of a boy who had to study for school, and she said, yeah, he was the son of an Amma devotee, and she said to him, you stop watching TV, you have to go study. And he says, mother, Amma says I should be in the moment, and in the moment I want to watch TV, and she said, no, she says, that's not the same as living in the moment. She says, living in the moment is that when it's time to plan, then you plan. When it's time to build, then you build. Those are all stages of things that are unfolding. But you be in that stage. In the planning stage, you don't try to be beyond it. That's what a lot of times what we do. We kind of say, we're here at the point where we've got the idea, and we're already too worried about the outcome. It's like, okay, no, we have to plan right now, and then as we start doing, then we might see how we have to adjust the plan. But you have to keep doing. She also said something interesting about people. She said when she goes to the care homes, like, where, nursing homes and things. And I don't know, presumably this is in India, where they say, oh, Amma, my children don't come to see me anymore. This like they've dumped me here after all I did for them their whole lives. And it was weird what she said. She says, why are you worrying about whether your children come to see you or not? Why don't you use this time for meditation? Why don't you use this time for this? Why don't you do some small thing in your community instead of whining about the past? I was like, whoa, that was kind of like a big, because that kind of flies in the face of what we think, right? But I think also she might be talking about this attitude that people will have about, what the next generation should be doing for the older generation. And she's like, everybody has something that they're doing, and there's still something you can continue to be doing when you are at that stage. So I thought that was kind of fascinating as well, because we do have kind of a thing of like, well, we take care of, and she talked a lot about mothers and how much they care for their children and so forth. But she said, at each stage of life, you have a different thing to do. Stop focusing on the past thing, which I thought was interesting, especially in terms of family stuff. I don't know. I started thinking of my own family stuff, where it's kind of like, when you have people who, even when their children are grown up, they kind of want to go back to when they were infants. And it's just kind of like, no, you need to be where you are right now. But she had a very, very strong message about unity, about getting out of the mind, and also about separation. She says, stop viewing all yourselves as all separate. Stop viewing yourselves as all separate. You're not separate. That's an illusion. You're not separate. But it was actually, she spoke for a long time, and she has a very beautiful voice. She's speaking in Malayali, so you're just reading the translations as it goes. But she was determined she was going to be the one to give this message. Now, my darshan with her was interesting, because she looked at me with this look in her face that was almost, because a lot of times first times I've met her, she's very, very smiley. She wasn't very smiley in these darshans. Maybe with some people she would, kind of laugh or whatever, but she kind of looked at me with this almost grief-stricken kind of look. And you have to remember, she's not like looking at me thinking, oh God, you're a piece of whatever, which might be the impression that people get when she does that. But it was just kind of this kind of very but what I kind of felt in that was just kind of like, she's looking at me like, oh God, the work that's being done right now. Like, I think she knows what kind of work that I do. And because the guru knows everything about you once you initiate with them and you have that link, they know. And I almost felt like she was like kind of commiserating with the fact that, it's so hard, that the work is hard. And it was weird because they ask you when you go up what language you speak, because she will speak to you in that language, right? Because she speaks Malayalam, but she knows how to say certain things in actually pretty much all languages. And so when she embraced me, she put her arms around me, she started talking to me in a language I have no idea. I heard them say to her, oh, she speaks English. She wasn't talking to me in English. I've never heard her do that before, and I don't know what language she was speaking to me. It was not one that was familiar to me. But she was speaking to me in my ear, and because normally she'll say like my daughter, my daughter, my daughter. Oneness, love it, yes, yeah, exactly. Well, that's just it. Stop being tribal, stop fighting with each other, right? That's kind of where she was at with that, and she was. She's always gentle in the way that she talks, but gentle but forceful at the same time. And so when I received, and then she did that, and then when she just kind of sat back, and when she gave me my prasad, just kind of sat and she looked at me for a minute, and then of course they pull you out, and then they because it is, if you go up there, it's like people are being pushed in and pulled out. This time she didn't sit on the floor though, you didn't have to kneel down. Basically you just put your hands on either side of her and let her pull you in. And it was just, and I remember I was just thinking about it like the whole way back to the train. I had a headache, so I wasn't thinking very clearly about it, but over the night I started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, it's almost like she's here because she felt she had to come here because she was in distress about how things were. And she's just like, no, this is not going to move the world forward. This is going to go backwards. And she was kind of, so I don't know, she never mentions politicians. She never mentions people's names. She never does that. She's very, very cautious about that, but it was just very clear that she is like this infighting, and she probably feels that way about both sides to some degree, of the various debates that we have. Like all of this sniping and fighting is not the way to carry on in the world, So anyway, that was my visit to the guru yesterday. It was a nice visit overall. By the way, I just want to say something real quick about these live streams, which I meant to say first thing. Was that I've been trying to upload I was going to upload the last two before I went away yesterday because I had everything else uploaded. I had the tarot readings and all that stuff. Instagram was not letting me download them. For some reason, probably Mercury retrograde, which we're in now, it wasn't letting me download them. So I'm going to try again today and see. So anyway, apologies for those people who like to watch this on YouTube. It was not letting me download anything. So hopefully that will be fixed today. And I did have Mercury retrograde going home because a train in front of us leaving New York had a mechanical problem, and we had to sit there for like 20 minutes while they fixed it before we could go. I was like, ugh, here we go. But could have been worse. All right, so let's do our readings for today. But yeah, that was just very intense, and it's just given me a lot to think about because the fact that she chose to come here after all of this, I was like, because literally I was talking to this woman next to me, and I'm just not saying her name out loud because I just don't. She hasn't given me permission to say what her name is, but she was just like, we're like, yeah, we never thought she was going to come to the USA again, like that she was done with programs. But she's not. She is there today, and she's there tomorrow as well. She's probably going to do the Devi Bhava on Wednesday, which is where she, they dress her up like the Devi, but she also goes into the mood of the Devi, and that's actually the ceremony where she gives out mantras and things as well. And I don't quite know how that's going to work this time, but a little different if people have been to see her before. So anyway, okay, what do we have? Our first card here is Patience. Okay, Seven of Pentacles. So this is interesting. This is like waiting for something to happen. As I've mentioned with Seven of Pentacles in the past, that's a card that can go either way. It can be a card of we're reevaluating and deciding whether something's worth the effort. But this has more of this idea. It's funny too, because we're talking about Amma, talking about mothering, and this woman is clearly about to be a mother, right? It's this idea of that something is still in gestation, and the process of getting there can be difficult to some degree, but the end result will be worth it. I mean, I feel like that's the inflection here, because something is going on internally that is beyond our control. This is the change card, and this has to do with the inevitable cycle of change, not something necessarily that you are driving or that you are initiating, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But this can also too, remember with retrograde, this can also indicate things coming back around again. So it could just be that maybe we're revisiting old territory, we're trying to, maybe cycling through certain things, maybe having a chance to correct things that maybe weren't quite right the first time. And we have the Lovers card as what we're aware of. So this, to me, in this particular deck, this is about actual love, not lust, not love in the sense of something that is a deep connection between two people, not just a physical connection, not just a how do I want to put it? It's something. It's not. It's about two people working together, or it's about two people loving each other in spite of their flaws, in spite of different things. It's that level of love that is beyond. And actually, that's just something else that Amma said. She says, people get into marriages and they each look to the other one to provide love, but she says, but they need to, but they're not thinking about it in the whole. They're thinking about what my needs are, but they're like, are you both thinking about each other's needs and everybody else's needs too? Kind of like that Bacchus and Philemon story that I told a little while ago. It's that kind of love. So this is what we're aware, this idea of love, of real love and real connection, unconditional love, that kind of love. Our advice here is the Fool. So the Fool suggests being, that we are taking a risk, or that we are beginning something, okay? There's a new start here. Now it's interesting that 3 out of these 5 cards are major arcana. Okay, so this is talking about shifts and changes that are bigger than us, bigger than whatever our personal agendas are or whatever our personal goals are. There just seems to be like we are patiently waiting for this beginning here, and I don't know this. And like I said, this may be telling us to take a little bit of a leap of faith too, with something, because maybe when something's new. There's always a preference to want to go back to the old, to kind of do it. But again, going back to what Amma says about, you don't want to focus too much on the past. You want to focus on you want to, when you're moving into a new space, a lot of times we're nervous in that new space because, I don't really know how to function here. So I'm just going to do it the way I did it before. And this is kind of saying, well, you don't want to default to the way you did it before. You want to kind of bury that and then kind of move forward. Our outcome card is Celebration, the 3 of Cups. So this is actually a very nice reading today, because this is just about enjoying life. And also, this is like a group of people dancing in the rain. I hope that's not too literal of an omen, because I know there's a hurricane out in the Atlantic right now that I really hope doesn't take a direct dump on New Jersey. I don't think it's really supposed to, but we still might get some of that outer band rain. But anyway, it's there's this idea of celebration, this because that's another thing too, in being in the moment and enjoying life and having that kind of unconditional love. But there's a sense of patience here. It's like we're waiting. We're trying to work our way through a particular situation. Rain in Detroit, as I type. Haha. Okay. Oh wow. Okay. So you're out in Michigan. Yeah. That's hopefully you're not going to get any remnants of this, because we're so close. Well, I'm not right on the coast, but New Jersey is so close to the coast that a lot of times those Atlantic hurricanes, even if they don't make a direct hit, we always kind of get slammed with the outer band rain. So it'll be interesting. They're kind of, there's like a cold front coming at the same time. So I don't know. It's going to be. Tonight and tomorrow is going to be interesting. So I'm glad I'm not driving anywhere. Okay, so that's the reading that we have, which is interesting. Now I wanted to pull, just because we were talking about this subject really quick, a yogic path card, because I don't use this deck that often. I like to use the decks that I know. I don't want to have to look stuff up. And this one, it's like there's a lot to it, so you have to kind of look stuff up as you go. But being where we're talking about karma yoga and things like that. Let's, okay, I don't need 4. I just need, I just want to just pull 1 or 2. Here we go. Oh, and look at the card we got. Samadhi. I was just talking about Samadhi, right? Okay. And let's see what we know it's, Samadhi is that state that I'm talking about that is beyond words. That is where you are in that space where you know without having to understand. So what does she say about this? The meaning of this card. Have you noticed the signs of spiritual progress? Your daily practice has brought you to a place of stillness. Yeah, stillness, okay? Nischala, stillness. And there is where you experience samadhi, the joining of all aspects of your being, physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional. Samadhi is the deepest level of awareness where you experience supreme bliss, consciousness, and enlightenment. Your human consciousness has become one with cosmic consciousness, and your soul realizes that it's far more than a mind and a body. Celebrate, you just saw the celebration card, the reunion of your soul and spirit, for you are a microcosm of the macrocosm. Okay? So that's interesting. Yeah, and all this talk about oneness, you're saying, and unity. It's not just unity with other people, because she also used the metaphor of waves on an ocean. You're waves on an ocean. You're not, or you are, you are the gold that's been in one ornament. Like it's that kind of a thing. So samadhi is that state of awareness of the unity of things, and it's also it's beyond. It's beyond language difference and understanding. When you're in a state of samadhi, it's just there's nothing to really be said about it, because you're just in it, and it's a gift when you actually can be in it. She talked a lot about grace and acts of grace, and again, depending on where you come from religiously, you might have different ideas about what that means, because I talk about the grace of God, but grace is that thing that's like that wheel card. It's like that thing that comes in that we don't have control over. You can't follow a 3-step process to get to grace. I mean, grace either happens to you or it doesn't. And I remember having a conversation with one of my students a long time ago who had said to me, she was an Indian student of mine, and when we were talking, that was when I was much more involved with the Amma stuff, like with the programs and things like that. And I was teaching library school at the time, and she had said to me, and we were talking about some of this stuff, and I said, well, sometimes because I have had those experiences, they're sporadic. It's not like a sustained experience. But when I've had them, I said, I don't really, I said, I feel like the kind of person I am, I don't deserve that. She says, well, grace isn't about what you deserve or don't deserve. She goes, grace is just is. It's not about, I completed these actions. So, because we like to attach an ethical component to all of it. And when it comes to that, like, there's not an ethical component then. It comes in where it wants to. And what exactly it is not necessarily easy to identify. Like, if you're not a religious person, then, or don't believe in spiritual ideas of grace, then, it just basically, it has to be that, some people might call it the luck factor, I guess, or just that something that the universe smiling upon you. You know what I mean? Where suddenly something comes in that's what you need, or you get that experience of samadhi that can come in when you're not like a regular meditator or something like that. Like, it's not, regular meditation can help with that, but it can happen to you really anytime. If whatever the rationale is, maybe there is no rationale. That's kind of the point. There really is no reason for anything. Like Zen Buddhism will tell you about. There's no reason for anything. Everything just is. It's not like there's a reason for that tree out there. There's a reason for that flower out there. Like, what's the reason? There's not a reason. What's the meaning of it? It's there. The meaning is that it's there. It's that kind of a thing. The glimpse of reality. Samadhi is a glimpse of reality, and it's the reality. Yeah, it's the reality of not only the unity of things, but also just. If I can only talk from my own experience, what I've experienced of it, it's just like it is a still place, like in the center, where you recognize everything that's going on around you, all the chaos around you, is just part of a bigger game, part of a bigger system. I mean, for lack of a better word, it's just there. Whether it's good or bad, whether we like it, whether we judge it good or bad, it's just there. And it's all just part of this. And there's kind of like an awe that you have of the fact that you're part of this. It is kind of a blissful feeling, although I don't necessarily connect a whole lot, like, emotion with it. It's just there. And again, see, I'm trying to explain it to you, and I'm doing a crap job, because it's just not easy to explain. But it's just like you just kind of there and you go, oh, yeah, and that's kind of, and then it does, and it does make you feel, even though you go back to seeing things kind of as separate, when you have that moment of seeing that, you're just like, okay, I'm in that space. And for me, it does feel like that wheel card. It does feel like you're, in the center of this wheel where it's still, and everything else is kind of moving around you. So yeah, it might just be saying, be still, act without judgment, and allow yourself to celebrate and enjoy the present. Because that was a big part of the message. You need to live in the present. You need to stop projecting about the future. I mean, you can make plans, but you don't want to be in a place where you're not. You don't want to deal with outcomes and things like that. A lot of the times the mind gets, that's what she says, the mind is way too involved. When they talk about the ego, it's what I talk about, like with the rational mind. It's too much in it, to the point, it's a gift that we have, but we use it in a way that just makes us crazy. So, makes us feel crazy. And it's just, yeah. So anyway, that's my little translation of what I learned yesterday, and that's our reading for today. So yeah, we're at 1:15, and I woke up to an unusually busy day today. So usually this is a day off for me, but I have quite a bit I've got to do. I've got readings for people. I've got editorial work I have to do. I have people coming in. I have all kinds of stuff. I've got a lot of questions. So, you're welcome. And like I said, I hope this was interesting, enlightening. Thanks for sharing your experience. Oh, you're welcome. Like I said, yeah, Amma is, she's very special. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing. You're welcome. Like I said, I'm always glad to share it and pass it on. I hope it's, helpful to whatever your current experience is and what you're dealing with. Or maybe it'll be helpful for a future experience. Who knows? Okay. So everybody here, I hope you all have a really great day, and I will be back tomorrow. So take care.